Hello, this video is going to show you how to use your Lumen course in Brightspace by D2L. So the first step is to import the Lumen course into your D2L course. So you'll get the Lumen course via email from someone, either the rep or me or someone, in a zip file. So from there you want to save the zip file to your desktop, and then we're going to import it into your D2L class. So we're going to go into the D2L class. We're going to go to Course Admin, Import Export Copy Components, and then we're going to scroll down and import components and start, and then you'll be able to upload and pick that zip file from wherever you have it saved, probably on your desktop, and just import all components and choose to just let it all import in. It may take a couple of minutes, and then it will all be imported into the course. So once it's imported in, the first thing you want to do is go to the content area, because this is where the majority of the resources are going to be. So over here on the side, you'll see the different links here. So to begin with, you'll see course contents and faculty resources are hidden. You do want to leave these hidden because these are things that teachers need to get to, not students. And so the first one that they're probably going to see, the first module that the students will definitely need to see, is the Succeeding with Waymaker module. And a lot of this is just general how Waymaker works information. So nothing you really need to edit, but just how it works. And then after that, you'll start to see your actual content, which will differ depending on the course that you have. So I have a public speaking course, so obviously my modules are public speaking related. So we'll click on the module, and pretty much you'll see somewhat of the same information in each module. So each module will begin with a study plan, and we'll look at that further in a minute. Some modules will have a discussion and or assignment that has come built in with your zip file. You can edit these assignments. You can delete them if you don't want to use them at all. You can edit them if you want to use pieces of it. Again, these are just pulled in through the zip file. And so I'll show you in a minute how you can edit those if you want to. And then lastly is usually a quiz. That's usually the staple of Lumen. So there may be discussions and assignments, but there's definitely going to be a study plan and a quiz. And the quiz is going to be related to the information that was in the study plan. So you see it's pretty much the same in every one. Each module will have a study plan, maybe a discussion and assignments, and then the quiz for that particular module. So that's what you'll see each time. Now, say that you did not want to use a particular module. You just don't want that content at all in your course. You can delete that by clicking on the module, coming to the top, and delete module. And then you want to permanently delete and remove all those topics and files. So you want to choose the second one and delete. And so what that will do is delete the study plan, delete the discussion and assignment, and delete the quiz. Now, what that's not going to do is delete the grade items that are associated to these discussions, assignments, and quizzes. So what you would want to do at that point is then come over to the grades area, and you would want to go to manage grades, and you would want to come and find whatever study plan, discussion, assignment, quiz, etc. that was. Click on it, and then more actions, delete, and delete that specific grade item that goes with that topic. So when you delete it from the content area, it's deleting the activity, but it's not deleting the grade item itself. Okay, so next let's talk about how you can edit those discussions or assignments. So to do your editing, you would just come over to discussions if it's a discussion that you want to edit. And then you just come down and choose edit topic. And then you can come in here and edit the content of the topic. Like it often refers to a Google Doc or whatnot. You might change that to a Word document or whatever you want to change with that. For discussions, you can also go ahead and set up the rest of the discussion in terms of timing and whatnot. So a couple of things, I'll show this one for example. When you edit the discussion, we always encourage you to check this last icon here. Users must start a thread before they can read and reply to other threads. That forces the student to read the discussion prompt and post their original message before they can reply to other messages, which is always a plus. So we encourage you turn that setting on. Then you want to go over to restrictions, And from here, you can put the start and end date of when they can begin to post in the discussion and when it is due. We also advise you to click display in calendar so that it will get put on the D2L calendar. So that's the availability that you maybe want to go ahead and put in there. That's not going to come over with the template, but it's something that you would want for the functionality of your course. And then if you go to the assessment area, you're going to notice that it came over with a grade item. So when you import the zip file, the discussions and all the gradable activities come over associated to the grade item that is made pre-made in the gradebook for you. So that saves you a step of having to make that grade item and link it. So that's a plus. But you do want to put the score out of here. And you want to make sure that these match up. So in the grades area, when you're looking at manage grades, notice that the discussions are out of 20 points. So you want that to match. So these are out of 20 points, so you want to put this score out of 20 points. Now say that you really don't want it to be out of 20 points, you want it to be out of 10 points. That's fine. You would put 10 points here, but you would also want to come here and edit the grade item as well and change that to be out of 10 points. You want whatever, it doesn't matter the points here, you just want to make sure that they match. Okay, so we're pretty much done setting up that discussion, so we'll save and close there. And that is how you can go about finishing setting up your discussions, either editing the content, putting in your due dates, and making sure that it is associated to an assessment. And again, if you want to delete it, you don't want it at all, you can just delete it right here or delete it out of the content area. So similar for the assignments. We'll click in the assignment area here, and these are all assignments that have been preloaded with Lumen. It came in as the zip file. Notice that they are associated to a grade item, so they did that work for you. But again, we can edit these if we want. If we just want to straight delete it, we click on it, more actions, and delete. So we can delete it from the content area. We can also delete it from the assignment area. To edit it, we just do the drop down here, edit assignments. We're able to edit any of these links or content here of what we want them to do. And then we just scroll on down and notice it is associated to a grade item. We notice that there is a score out of. Make sure that that score out of matches the assignment grade item. And so you should see it here. It shows that it matches. So you just want to make sure that those are set to go. And then we're going to come over here to restrictions. And we're just going to put in our start and end date of when it opens up and when it closes. That won't come over in the zip file, but that's something that you want to put in. We also encourage you turn it in for this particular, actually in all assignments. And so this is going to, when the student submits the paper, it's automatically going to go through Turnitin, which is a plagiarism detection service. It's not turned on by default for assignments when you put in the zip file, but it will make, it is something you can easily turn on. So we just go to Turnitin tab. We enable grade mark. Give it just a second to do so. Great. We're going to allow learners to see the Turnitin similarity scores. We're going to open more options and Turnitin real quick. And then here, just a couple of things in optional settings. We want it to go into the standard paper repository. Scrolling down, we do want it to compare against all these three things: the student repository, the current and archived web material, and the periodicals. And then scrolling down, we do want it to do the second option, which was generate reports immediately. And also you can check this item to save these settings for your future uses so that you won't have to come back all the time every time you set up an assignment area and turn that on. And we'll submit that. And then we can save and close, and then our assignment now is set up for us. So again, the content came over when we imported the zip file, but we did come in here to the assignment and edit things, set a due date, and connected it to Turnitin. And you'll know it's connected to Turnitin because it will have this little icon right here. Next, let's move on to setting up the Lumen components itself. So we're going to go back to content. And something you want to set up early on before the class gets started is your Lumen Communications. And so you're going to get to that by going to Faculty Resources, which again is hidden, and you wanted to leave it hidden because it's only something that instructors need to see. Students don't need to see this. We're going to choose Waymaker Faculty Tools. And then up here, we're going to be able to see that we have automated messages turned on already. It might be turned off initially when you import it in, so you want to make sure to turn those on. And up here at the top under menu, there'll be a little link that says set up communication. So we want to go ahead and set up communication here. And so basically what we're setting up here is Lumen, as part of this integration, as part of this zip file, will automatically send messages to students based upon their performance in the course. These are auto messages. You can edit the template if you want to make it look or sound or include whatever information you want. But basically, Lumen's going to keep a close watch on what the students are doing in the course, how they're scoring on their quizzes, and it will automatically send emails to the students based upon that data. Of course, you can send your own emails that you script and send when you want, but this is just sort of an automated tool. So to set this up, we're just going to go to Setup Communications, scroll down, Configure Waymaker. It should pull this information in from D2L, but you do want to make sure that it is set up correctly. You can also choose what type of notifications you want to get. I like a daily digest because basically every day it's going to email me and say, hey, we sent notifications to these students today. So you can do that. You can also have it to where it sends you one every time a recommendation is triggered for you. Of course, we don't encourage you to not set up notifications at all because then you don't get any notifications and know what Lumen is doing in that sense. So then we're going to define our course settings. So from here, we're going to set up the mastery threshold. So basically, how well do they have to score on the exam to not get this email target? So here you can kind of read that those who score below the mastery threshold on their first quiz attempt will be encouraged to do the review and then attempt the quiz a second time. And then if they score at or above the mastery threshold, they won't be encouraged to attempt a second time. So on each quiz, they're given 2 attempts. If they score below a certain threshold on the first attempt, they're not going to get an automated email saying, hey, you need to study some more before you take your second one. So you can, right now the threshold is set by default to 80%. So if they score 80 on their first quiz, they don't get that follow-up email saying, hey, you need to study more. But it's up to you. You can change that as much as you like here. You also want to make sure to put in the course start and end date of when the course is going to be open so that Lumen will know when to send those messages. Obviously, it's not going to keep sending messages after the course date is over with. So then we're going to select a message personality. This is really up to you, coach or advisor. The coach is more informal to me. The advisor is more formal. And you can view the sample messages of what each looks like. So this is a sample message from the coach. And so you can see it's a little bit more informal, while the one that is the advisor role is a little bit more formal. So again, it's really just a personality option. So I'm going to choose the coach because I like things to be a little bit more informal. And then I'm going to be able to come here. I want to make sure those automated messages are turned on. And then I'm going to be able to see what they will send messages for. So they'll send it for study tips, and this explains when that message gets sent. So with the study tips, within each study plan, there are modules for the students to review, and built in those modules are little formative assessments. So just a couple of questions that are built there. They're not graded, but it does track if the student completed them. And so if a student uses less than 25% of those formative assessments in a module, and then they take their first quiz attempt and score below the mastery level of what we said is 80, it's going to send them this message, basically giving them study tips, telling them basically to remember to use the formative assessments. This is sent by time, so it's not going to send it more than once every 2 weeks for the student. So the other option is the nice work option. And so this is when the student reaches or exceeds the mastery threshold on a quiz. This is just sent saying, hey, great job for scoring well on the quiz. So over here on the side, we can edit these messages. So we'll click on message 1. It will give us what it will look like, and we can actually here type in the change anything that we want to change. And they actually give you 3 different messages for the study tips and 4 different messages for the nice work, so that the student doesn't always get the same exact email and can very quickly determine, oh, this is just something automated. So you can personalize these as much as you want and type on these and change these up as much as you want, and you can see what is being messaged there. Okay, so from there we could finish if we want to, but we can actually go further, and there are some more customized emails that you can send out as well if you want to. And this is going to be used when students score below the mastery threshold, so below 80% on their first quiz attempt, even if they have used the 25% of the formative assessment. So they use the formative assessments, but they still don't score well. So that's kind of another situation rather than not using the formative assessments. So in this case, this will be an office hours invitation. You can click and edit this message. And basically, you do want to make sure to edit this because you want to list the topics that you want to talk about here, related to your course. And you also want to put in your office hours or when you're going to be available to meet them. So you want to make sure to customize that one. The other one is supplemental help, and so you can click on this, and this is where you can put in additional links here. And so this can be where, if there's additional links related to your content topic, you can put them in here as well. So these are not mandatory that you use. You just want to, if you don't want to edit them, if you don't want to use them, don't edit them. And then you want to finish and start using Waymaker. Okay, so now that we've set up those communications, we are ready to go. Now I'm going to take you back out because I want you to be able to see where you go and see those notifications and those messages of when students have been sent those. So we'll pretend it's another day, another time. We've already set up the communication, and I just want to go and see what students have done what. So we'll go to faculty resources. We'll come over here to Waymaker faculty tools. We'll just scroll down, and we will see a listing here of students who are currently struggling. And I can take this action, and if students are currently struggling, it'll give them listing here, and it will tell me their quiz results. So in this case, the student was working on this module. They made a 21% on the first quiz and a 42% on the second quiz. It told me when they took these, and it told me what happened. The students scored below the mastery after the second attempt. So that is some interesting data for you. So we're going to go back to the faculty resources, and we're going to go back to the faculty tools because we're going to look at one more piece of communication here. So we're going to scroll down, and we're going to view individual student histories. Let's view these. So we're going to view the histories, and we're going to see that one quiz has been completed for this student. Their average was a 43, but they did do all the participation. So they did do the actual module. And then it lets you know that 0 automated messages have been sent and 0 personalized messages have been sent. So we can come back here, and we can also view automated message sent. We can view that, and then we'll be able to see a listing of any automated messages sent. So basically what we can determine from this is that the student did score below the mastery on both of them, but that automated message has not been sent yet. The student did complete the quiz yesterday, so it will probably be later in the week when that automated messages get sent, but you can always send a personalized message as well. Okay, so that is where you can get the data for those tools. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as a student so you can see what it looks like from the student perspective as to how to maneuver through the course. All right, so I'm logged in as a student, and I'm going to just go to the content area as normal. And I'm just going to come over to the side, and I'm just going to be able to start on the different things. So notice that I see the Succeeding with Waymaker module that gives me just different links of how Waymaker works, and then I'm able to start right into the course. And so to begin with, the content really itself of the course is going to be in the study plan. So we click on the study plan, And this is what it's going to look like for pretty much all modules. So you'll have why it matters and show what you know, which is how you get started. The why it matters is pretty much explaining why this module is important. The show what you know is like a pretest. Then you come down to dive in, which is where the content is. So this will vary. The number of modules will vary depending on what's covered. But here we'll be able to see what the content is there. And then lastly, we have finish strong, which is kind of a conclusion, wrapping it up, and then ready to move on, which is going to link you into the quiz that you take at the end of the module. Okay, so notice that I've actually already done the pretest. I'll show you what the pretest looks like in a minute, but I've already done the pretest for this module. So you see it says done for me. So I'm able to come down and I'm able to see what area needs work. And so what helps with that is based upon how I do on my pretest, it will highlight the ones that need work because the pretest is based upon the content in these modules. So if I've done relatively well in speaking confidently, it's not that I don't need to review that content, of course I do, but it tells me that, it's not as important as the other ones. Also, as I go through each of these, there's going to be a little self-check at the end. And when I complete that self-check, it will show that it is done. And then also, depending on how well I do on that self-check, it will let me know. So even after completing the self-check, I did well on this. I probably might need to go back and review these based upon how I did on the pretest and the self-check. So now let's go through one that I haven't done so you can kind of see what that looks like. So I'll go back to content and I'll just pick a random one that I know I haven't done, and we'll go to the study plan. And so I want to click on why it matters, and so I'll click on the why it matters, and notice that this is Lumen content, all pulling in right into your course, so there's information for me to read. And I'm able to go next, and it'll go take me right into the show what you know piece. And again, this is going to be the piece that is the pretest. So I'm just going to start it, and then I'll be given my pretest question. So I'm just going to randomly answer these things. I'm not even going to read the question, but basically I'll just go through and answer my questions. And notice that the pretest has, 10 to 20 items on it based upon the content. And again, it's all going to be based upon what is in that particular module and what content you're going to be reviewing in the dive in. So I go through, I answer the questions, and then when I get to the end, it's going to ask me to submit my pretest, which isn't graded. It's not going into the D2L gradebook. It's something that I'm able to see. So I've completed it. Yes, submit. Shows me my grade. I grade a whopping 13%, which of course is not good. It shows me how much time I spent on it. And then it breaks apart the different dive in sections. And so it shows me the different sections. I did very poorly in active listening, and then I did pretty poorly in both of those as well. It also shows me my pre-test answers. It shows me what I answered and what is correct, and then it explains why it is incorrect or correct, and then it even tells me what skill I'll be learning with that. So they can review how they did on the pretest there. Okay, so now that I've done the pretest, again, that isn't a grade. That's something that is documented data that is collected, but it's not a grade in the D2L gradebook. I'm able to go back to my study plan for that particular module. And from here, I'm able to see all of these need work. Now, if I had scored really well on one area, it would be a different color and it would say, improving or something like that. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't look at that area. It just means that, you scored better with the pretest, so you might have more prior knowledge. Also, it lets me know that my self-checks are not done. So speaking of the self-checks, let's go a little bit more into detail about those. So when the student clicks on one of these links, they're going to read some information, do some little interactives, and at the end it's going to ask them to do a self-check. Now that self-check itself is not graded in that they don't get a D2L gradebook item for that. However, the completion of the entire set of self-checks in this module does come over in the Lumen graded feature, so the newer versions of Lumen, as a D2L grade item. And so I'll show you really quick in the grades area what that looks like. So in the grades area, over for each, basically for each module, you'll have a grade for the study plan. You'll have a grade for any discussions or assessments that, are regular D2L things that you would grade, and then their actual summative quiz that we haven't gotten to yet. So this study plan grade is based upon a reflection of their completion of the study plan self checks, which are here in the study plan. And basically, as they complete one of them, you'll see the grade go up, and then as they complete all of them, they'll get 100. So it's basically a participation grade. It's not graded on how well they do, it's graded on if they complete it. So let's just click on one of these modules. And so in active listening, they have all these 5 little sub modules and then that self check. And then for the strategies to enhance listening, they have 6 little sub modules and the self check. Now, the students are able to skip straight to the self check and do it, and it count as towards their participation. So for the grade item in the D2L gradebook, it's only checking if they do these 3 self-checks for this particular module. So they can technically skip it, but of course they're probably not going to do well on the self-check and not do well on the quiz if they don't look at the items. So we click on these, and this is similar to what all the programs will look like. You'll just have some information to read. There might be some little interactives built in, but this is how they maneuver themselves through the content. And so this is just a little built-in interactive where you can check your answer, move it on through. So this is where you would look at it. Again, here's another little formative check your answer. And then so these little formative assessments, in addition to the self-checks, are being monitored because remember, if a student does the formative self-checks and then scores poorly on the quiz, an email will be sent out to them. If they don't do the formative self-checks or they do a very low percentage of them and do the quiz, things will be sent out to them. So this data is getting tracked. It's just not coming over to the D2L gradebook. But again, it is getting tracked because we are wanting to see did or did they not do those formative little built-in assessments. Okay, so we get to the self-check. So here we have the self-check. We click on it, we check our answer, and then we move on to the next. Usually the self-checks are very short. They're, 2 or 3 questions. They're not something that's really long. Okay, now remember, it's not going to give them credit based upon how well they scored. It's just going to give them credit for doing it. So here it tells us it tells us that we still need work based upon our results. We can go back and review the material and go back to the beginning and review it again, or we can go ahead and go on to the next topic. So here in the study plan, notice that now it says the self-check is done, while I still need to do the self-checks in the other one. So then I would just click on that other module, go through the content items, and do the self-check for the other 2. Okay, so now that I've completed all the self-checks for this particular listening and responding module under the study plan here, so as I've looked at these, as I've completed each of these self-checks, when I go to the grades area, notice that under the study plan listening and responding, I have a 100% score or a 5 out of 5, and that just means that I have participated and done all the study plans. It does, or for that module, it does not mean that I scored well on them. I actually scored very poorly, but that just is a participation. Now, students will see this update. So if they did active listening today and do these 2 later on another day, they're going to see that their grade is 1.5 out of 5 or something. And as they complete the study plans, this grade will increase. And the way for them to check is to come back to the study plan, and it will say self-check done, self-check done, self-check done. Okay, so we've done all the self-checks. We've gotten our participation grade here for doing those self-checks. And so we would want to look at putting it together and look at those pieces. And then our next step is to do the actual quiz. So when we go to the actual quiz, it will say, when we click on it to do the actual quiz, it'll say ready for the quiz, and then it will tell us to take the quiz, exit the study plan, and click on the quiz link. So we come right here to the content area, and we go to the quiz here to take it. So we click on the quiz. You'll notice it doesn't look like a regular D2L quiz. It actually looks like a Lumen quiz. Notice that each student gets 2 attempts on each quiz, and it will record the highest score in the grade book. And then, depending on how they score on the first attempt, triggers an email, perhaps if they score poorly on the first attempt, may trigger an email to get sent to them using that communication. So we choose start, and then again, we just come and answer the questions and go to next. This looks very much like the pretest. Okay, so we completed our score for the first time. We see that we made a 33%, which was terrible. It did record it in the grades area, and it also gives us this breakdown of what we did well and what we didn't do well as let us see what we answered correctly as well as incorrectly. It doesn't tell us the correct answer, but it does let us know what we answered correctly or incorrectly. Now, these questions, when they take it a second attempt, they may not get these exact same questions because it is based upon a question bank, but it is good information for them to look at. So I could go back and review, or I could go right back in and take my second attempt. So notice in the grade book that populated over for me, my grade that I did score, but again, if I score better on the second attempt, it will populate over as well. So now let's log back into the teacher so we can see some of this data. So one place to look is to go into the module itself and then go to the study plan. And we'll be able to see some data here. We'll be able to come and see if we hover over this, it tells us how people scored on the average formative score and their summative score for that particular area. So we see their average formative score was 12%, their average summative score was 25. So we see that they actually did a little bit better on the summative than they did the formative. So maybe they learned something while they were reading that. So that's where some of that data can be. Keep in mind that's based upon one student right now. We can click on it and we can look and see more specifics here. And so we can see that there were 14 little formative results done there. So they went through the formative results. And then, of course, there's only been one quiz. Because remember, there were multiple little items in the, when you're going through these, there were multiple little self-checks in there. In addition to the self-check, that's where that's coming from. So we're wanting to see improvement from on the quiz results than we are the formative results. So that is some data you can look for. You can also go more specifically into the content area and look more specifically at the quiz grades themselves. So you're able to come in, click on the quiz, and you're able to see the results. So we see this person on their first attempt, they made a 33. I'm able actually to click on that 33%, and it actually gives me a breakdown of how that student scored, how they scored on the different objective modules, and then how they answered each question if it was correct or incorrect. So it actually lets me see their particular response. Now, sometimes when you're taking a D2O quiz, you always will have a student say, "Oh, my attempt got stuck in progress. Oh, something happened. I need you to delete my attempt and let me take another attempt." They automatically get 2 attempts, and those 2 attempts are unlimited in timing. But say you need to give the student another attempt for some reason, you just come right here, click on the quiz, and so this person already took 1 attempt. I could add them in another attempt. So they had 1 attempt remaining because they took one. I could give them 2 attempts remaining if I wanted to kind of filter out that second one. So that's how you could do that. You could also come here and look at the answer key. So you'll be able to come and actually look at the questions themselves that are on the quiz. So notice there are 44 questions in the pool, but it only gives them, say, 15 of them. So you can come and see what questions they're potentially going to get. You can come over here, and if you want to, you can disable this question to where it's not in the question pool. Say that you didn't cover this, or you don't really like the way this question, you can disable it to where it won't be put in the question pool. You can also edit the question. So you can choose edit, and you can come in and make minor things. If you want to change some wording or whatnot, you can come and um, edit the question itself too, so that it will be changed in the answer key. And then, of course, you can come and preview the exam, and you'll be able to see what we just looked at now when we took it as a student. You'll be able to see that as the teacher. So in terms of grading the assignments and discussions, you're going to do those just like you do regular in D2L. You'll just go to the discussions, you'll click on the drop down, assess topic, and grade it that way. With the assignments, you'll just come over, click on it, grade it, and put in the grade. All of that's going to be the same for discussions and assignments. Really, quizzes is the only one that's different. Notice that there aren't any quizzes in the quizzes area in D2L because these quizzes are not D2L quizzes. They are pulled over in the Lumen integration. Notice that they'll say external learning tool. So that's why they don't look like D2L quizzes. So remember, to do any editing on the quizzes, you go to the content and click on the name of the quiz to do editing, not in the quizzes area. So lastly, we can come back to the faculty resources. We can go to the communication area, and we'll be able to come in and basically see anything here. So here we see that one student now needs help. And so I can come and click on this to see. So this student missed 3 questions on the outcomes. They scored 33%. They missed questions on 3 different outcomes. I'm able to click on that to see. And this is the one that we just did as a student. And so basically, they fell short of the mastery on their first attempt, even though they did do 25% or more of the formative assessments. So the student did do the formative assessments, they just still didn't score well. And so what we can come over here and do is we can choose message, and we can type out, it kind of gives us a pre-typed out message, but we can send a one-on-one message that we can edit out, or we can send tips as well. We can edit these messages and send the message. It will look like it came from your Gordon email, and it will go to their Gordon email. So that is where we can kind of auto update. It will give you those. So that's something you might want to check every day, just to see who's struggling. And then you can come in here and see the message log. So we'll be able to see this student has completed 2 quiz attempts. You'll be able to see all of this different information. The auto things haven't been sent out yet, but that's where that information would be. So it's a good idea maybe to check this area, and you should get an email about those notifications as well if you have those turned on. So in general, that is how you can use the faculty Waymaker tools.